Yeah.
That sounds good. Well,
Okay.
we are actually live anyway, so
We're live. Okay.
we
No
went
more.
live early. Went live a little bit early.
It's
All right.
fine.
All right. Wednesday, if you guys were not with us yesterday, we had Bella Martin on from Australia. She gave us a little update of some competition she's been working at, German Throwdown, which maybe we'll reference a little bit today. New Zealand Nationals for individuals she was at, and then she was down in Australia previewing the Down Under Championships. And we mentioned yesterday that we were going to have another guest on today, another guest with a great smile from an international land. There's that smile.
Thank
Lena
you.
Richter. And depending on where you're listening from, you might know Lena very, very well. You might kind of know her a little bit, or you may not have heard of her at all. But if you're in Norway, Sweden, or most parts of Europe, you probably know who she is. If you're a fan of the team competition at the CrossFit Games, you probably know who she is. She's had quite a bit of success there, 3 times on the podium. If you're a friend of Brian Friend or B.Friendly Fitness, you might know who she is because she's one of 2 athletes in the sport of CrossFit that I've played disc golf with, which is very exciting.
Sure.
Both of them were team competitors at the games this year, so the individuals are lacking behind in this regard, but we're going to try to change that. And if you're a fan of International Functional Fitness Federation, or the IF3, you may at the very least recognize her voice because she did the commentary there last weekend. Hi, Lena.
Hi. What an introduction.
I
That
know.
was the best ever. Thank you. Thank you. Even
He doesn't
mentioning
do that for me.
No.
And Patrick's here, by the way.
Thanks. There we go. I'm here.
Yes.
So, Lena, we, I guess, kind of specifically do want to talk to you about the IF3. But before we get to that, first of all, I think it's really cool that you were able to do the commentary there, and we're going to talk about that a bunch. But for people that maybe don't know you so well, can you just tell us a little bit about what you've been up to this last few years, and if this year is going to look any different than the previous years when you've been pretty consistently on the top team from Oslo, Norway, one of the best teams in the world?
Yeah. So yeah, hi guys. I'm a CrossFit athlete. I've been the last 3 years. I've been on the CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue team. Our first year we were just CrossFit Oslo. We were in 2021 the first European team to ever podium at the CrossFit Games. We came second. It was our first time entering games in the team division. And yeah, after that we figured out that okay, we do team work pretty well. We know how to do this stuff. We did some changes on the male side. We went on doing team the next year, podium again, got second place again, and in 22. And then this year as well, we did one more, or was supposed to be like one last time doing the team, and we got third place this year. Yeah, so I guess that's one of the better teams at the games, I would say. Podium 3 years in a row.
And you and Ingrid, both you and Ingrid Hodnemer were on the team all 3 seasons.
Yeah. So me, Ingrid, and Avin, the guy in the middle there on the picture, were on the team all 3 years. And then Nikolai Bjelde, all the way to the left there, he came in on the last 2 years.
2 years.
And Nikolai had competed previously at the games as an individual.
He has. So we all have equally 3 times games appearances. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, depending on where you're from, you may know a lot about CrossFit Oslo, Krieger training, and basically the powerhouse that they are in Norway and in Oslo. But you guys were not the only team from Oslo at the games this year.
No, we actually had three teams this year from CrossFit Oslo. Yeah, 3 teams. 2 teams last year. We had, 6 teams at a European semifinal. Yeah, and
And
half
I
of
wanted to bring that up and acknowledge that because
that's
some of
great.
those details are going to be relevant when we talk about the IF3, some of those athletes.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's quite yeah, just very seems like it's smitten or something, like one person does well in a country and then the rest of them are just like, oh, we can also do this, the whole um I don't know, the whole community is just okay, we want to do team and we know we can do well, and they are doing well, so that's very, very fun for sure, and I'm happy to be a part of that, like, beginning for Norway and the teams coming up here.
do you feel like you, Ingrid, Eyvind are in some ways are kind of inspirations and role models for some of the other athletes?
Like, oh, it's you want to say it yourself, but I think in some way we are, and also not necessarily just role models, but the thought of just, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. Not saying like everyone thinks they're better than you, but it's just like you see so much on Instagram or you see stuff at the games, and it's hard to compare yourself. I've felt on that myself. Just you see people training really hard and competing at the games, and you kind of put yourself in a different box where it's just like, no, I can't do that. That's for the professional athletes. And for me, it, like, in no way saying I am on the level of Kristin Holte, but when we started training and doing Krieger together, for me, that was kind of a turning point because I saw that, oh, okay, I know she's my biggest role model. Like, she's so badass and everything she's achieved is just insane. But in training, I was like, we do the same training, like we do the same volume, we do the same things, we do the same workouts mostly. Like, and again, obviously, disclaimer, I am not Kristin Holte. I don't think I'm on her level, but I still see that, oh, there's potential, like I am doing the right things. um and don't want to speak on behalf of the rest of the Norwegian teams, but I think that's kind of like they see us and they were like, "Ooh, but we do the same. We could make that happen." And yeah,
And I had a chance to come into CrossFit Oslo this past off season a couple months ago and do a
yeah,
little training with you guys. During that time, it was not how it normally is during regular training sessions. And what I mean by that is there were maybe a half dozen, 6 to 8 people training those mornings, those couple days I was there. But on a normal day in CrossFit Oslo, in those morning training sessions, Joachim and Seaman told me that there can be 20 to 30 athletes, high-level athletes, all training at the same time.
yes, I know we're very lucky to have that opportunity. It's been growing the last couple of years, like more and more people coming in to CrossFit Oslo. It's like this, can you call it athlete hub, kind of like everyone wants to go there. It's yeah, and it seems like everyone has the same mentality going into training, like, okay, we do it properly. And not to scare off anyone else, but we have a lot of space there. It's a huge gym. I realized
Mm-hmm.
that comparing to other gyms. So we do have a lot of space and we're very lucky to have that space. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple different gyms or areas for people to train. So there can be classes going on while there are also professional athletes pursuing, their goals in CrossFit or functional fitness. And one thing that's very, very cool and pretty unique, I would say, globally about Norway is that their government actually supports functional fitness as a national sport.
Yes. So they've been a part of the, like, National Sport Federation, I think it's called, since, I don't want to say anything wrong. I think it's 2019. I'm not 100% sure. 2019 or 20. So that means as an official sport in the country, you would get fundings from the government. And with this, we had a national team. We can build on national camps. We can have coaches who are actually paid during, like, the national camps. we can have funding going to different competitions within functional fitness and so on. And also for me, when I was working full time, and I know the students as well, if you're a part of a national team, like an official sport, you will get like it's easier taking breaks from work or school, even like if you have an exam that like during semifinals. I know a lot of students have their exam around that time, and you will get like exemptions for going to a semifinal because you're in, it's a part of the sport, you know.
Yeah, and you're
That's
representing
the,
your country.
yeah, exactly. So that's a very big advantage, I think.
And just kind of a last question about maybe the past there. There's another gym in Norway, CrossFit Trondheim, that has had some success at the games. Are they affiliated with CrossFit Oslo or Krieger Training in any way, or is that a totally separate gym and training environment?
No, actually not. They are. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's still owned by Mathilde Garnes.
Okay.
So or partially, she's one of the owners, and this is the place where Mathilde Garnes used to train before she moved to Oslo.
And it's not close to Oslo.
It's not close. No.
I found that out when I was there. I was like, I wonder where Trondheim is. I looked on the map and I was like, okay,
No.
this country is very long from north to
Yes.
south, and it's way up there.
Yes. I think like I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like when you see it on the big like world map, Norway is almost as like long as US, even longer. Like, do you have a world map?
Yeah, actually over my right
You do?
shoulder, I have one there. I scratch off the countries that I have visited,
Oh,
and
cool.
recently got a chance to cross off Norway.
Yeah.
And
Go measure Norway and then see to US.
yeah, north to south, I mean, it goes way up there. And
Yeah.
I've only been to Oslo. One day I would love to kind of in the summer, not in the winter. I would love to go up north.
Summer. Yeah. Now it's not a good time. It's so
Okay,
cold.
cool. And so that's kind of a little history of Lena's career, where she's come from, some of the influence and impact that her and her teammates have had on the CrossFit and functional fitness community there in Oslo and in Norway in general. And as she mentioned, kind of before any of them were doing this, Kristen Holte was
Yeah.
kind of the forerunner. She's been a legend of the sport, podiumed at the games as an individual. In my opinion, one of the 10 or 12 best women who's ever done this sport. And she's obviously a part of what's going on there also. There are some people already asking, but now that you guys are putting the team, you guys said this was kind of your last run. How
Yes.
much thought have you given to what the future looks like for you, or even if you know for any of your teammates, now that team has kind of had their run three straight years on the podium?
Yeah. So by answering this, I want to like back it up a little bit for me personally, just so you get a little bit more insight on it. So first year going to the games, I remember, so because I'm not from a team sport. I am from gymnastics. I played soccer. I think most people in Norway play soccer, but I kind of go in the category of an individual athlete, I would say, with the gymnastics. And we kind of at the time I felt like we did team because that was the way you wanted to go to the games, or like that was the way to go to bigger competitions because we weren't good enough going individual. And the first year I saw that, oh, I'm getting better. Maybe the first year I thought maybe I just want to go individual, but obviously we signed up as a team. We were like, okay, we're going as a team, and we did super well. But I was in the thoughts of like, I want to go here individually. I want to go individual, like team 1 year, then I go individual next year. But then we quickly decided, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm doing team another year. We did so well, and it's super fun. Let's do team one more year, and we did so. But this year we were really like, okay, this is the last time we're doing. This was 22, so last year we're like, this is the last
And we
time.
can put a little context for people. So in 2021 and 2022,
Yeah,
you participated in the individual quarterfinals And in
I
Europe, you were 17th and 10th. So,
Yes.
your perception that you were good enough to make a run at the games as an individual was actually founded on performances.
Yes, exactly. So I saw like, oh, I can like 10th place in the quarterfinal. That would almost like if I were lucky or like not lucky, but there was a chance I could qualify individually to the games. So it's been in my mind. And again, I saw like it's different competing individually, and it for sure is like it's a challenge I want and it's something I want to do. And at the moment, the beginning, I thought this would challenge me more, mentally and like physically and everything, like going individual. That's the true, like, that's how you grow. But we did another year. And then we, after 22, we're just like, you know what? We've been second twice. We really, really wanted to win, just give it everything we got. Me and Ingrid, we're not working. We're like really just like full time into taking the games, winning it. And during this year as well, I kind of realized that I am growing so much being on a team. I'm still evolving as an individual athlete. Like I feel better, way better than I was the first year. So it's not like I'm not putting in the work. I'm putting in so much more work being on a team, and there's so much more mentally on being on a team, I think. And I really feel like it has helped me evolve, not only just as an athlete but as a human being, kind of, which I'm very proud of. And so this year we were also, again, Lena is going individually, because I do enjoy competing individually as well. The boys are retired. Nico posted a retirement post lately, and Avin is working. Ingrid is starting a new chapter, trying to make a family, and will probably do some individual competing. And for me, I thought I was super ready for individual, but I just haven't closed the team chapter yet. Like, we got third. I still want to I still want to win CrossFit Games, and I think I can do it. I really, really think so. So yeah, I will be doing team, but it's
So
a
we'll
new team,
see you one more
and you
time
will, yes, at
on the
least
team
one more time.
side, and you're gonna have to wait to see who's
Yeah,
gonna be her teammates this year, but we will get to see you again in the team competition.
you will. Yes. So we were just waiting with everything, but I'm very excited for next year. I think it's gonna be, a big one. Of course, I will miss my navy blue teammates because it's been such a big part of me and my journey and my everyday life the last 2 years. So that's gonna be different for sure.
So good news is you're not retiring and becoming a commentator yet.
Not yet. That was fun though.
But you did have a chance to do that this
Yes,
past weekend, right?
I did. Yeah.
And this was the International Functional Fitness Federation World Championships for both individuals and teams.
And under 20. Under 20. Yeah. So that's like 90 to 20 category. The up and coming new stars.
Yeah, they call it junior individual. So it's not the teenage. That happened already in Vancouver a few weeks ago, and the Masters. There were 5 divisions, and we're going to just kind of run through them a little bit here. We're going to start with the young divisions and just touch on them, and then build towards the elite divisions. This is as you mentioned, under 20, or it's 19 and 20-year-old girls or women, and the top 2 spots are both Norwegian athletes. Is that correct?
By the
I
way,
know.
spoiler alert, you're going to see a lot of Norwegians on the top of the podium. Hate to break that out, but just to prepare people.
Not exclusively,
Sorry.
but a lot of
I
them.
know. I said a lot. So
Yeah.
So
but
2 Norwegians here, and then I just want to give a recognition to Nadia Seismalis because I saw her compete at the
USA.
pit teen throwdown. over Labor Day in Michigan in the United States. And there's not that many Americans that compete in the IF3 World Championships right now, but she did go over there and did very well. So I wanted to recognize Nadia, but also give you a chance to talk about Marie and Ida, who are, you know, young and exciting athletes in Norway.
Yes, yeah, all of them. Like watching the under 20 division was very just. I was so amazed of what they can do, and functional fitness is different from CrossFit. Some people think like, oh, it's just CrossFit, but it's different because we have these 6 tests, and the tests are very like, it's
There's structure.
endurance. Yes, it's structured. So the first one is pure endurance. It's basically monostructural moving. It has to be within a longer workout, and then it's strength, which is just a pure strength event, and there's skill, body weight, power, and mix. So it's like the mix and sometimes the body weights are similar to what we see as a CrossFit workout, but the other tests are very like you're testing different stuff, kind of.
Yeah, it's a cool format in that regard, is that you know more or less what you're signing up for. You know how many tests there are going to be. You know what the nature of those tests are, but you don't know specifically what's going to be tested. So the body weight test 1 competition could consist of muscle ups and pistols, and the next time it could be handstand push-ups and chest to bar pull-ups, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's so overall you want to be like a more overall athlete. That's the ones who make it well. But the thing is, so to the under 20 division, they were just so like the skill workout was basically the same as the open division, which previously the skill division has been kind of like not that high skill for the youth or like juniors, but they were really just yeah.
Was this with the handstand walking, where it was like going
Yeah,
backwards,
yeah,
forwards, around the obstacle in a square?
everything.
That was
So
that was pretty cool. That was
obviously
pretty
the
cool.
open division were crushing it, but still the junior division, yeah, they were like, okay, we're just doing it, you know. I think there was one girl and one boy who finished the whole like obstacle course. It was cool to watch. Maria and Ida Strigen, they are very up and coming in Norway. I know Maria Rongstad, she follows Krieger, so I've seen her through the Krieger channel. So strong, very high skilled athlete.
And we see the strength here listed
Yes.
as 96 and 100 kilos. What were they lifting?
Clean and jerk.
Clean and jerk. So that's
That's
just
220 in pounds.
yeah. So, and these are, like I said, 19 and 20-year-old women up and coming in the sport. And do either of them live in Oslo?
No, I no, I don't think so. There, Maria Rongstad is right outside Oslo. Ida Strigen, I am sorry if no, I don't think she lives in Oslo, but I'm not sure.
But 2 points separated them. So it was very competitive from start
Yes,
to end. I'm sure from a commentator's perspective, as kind of a fan, just enjoying watching these young Norwegian athletes, it was pretty fun and intense. And you see in the final there,
yes,
Ida actually won the final, and she probably needed one person to come in between in order to make up the
yeah.
difference. But it didn't happen. Maria
And
took
no,
second.
and that
And
person, there was actually a person like actually coming in between, but she slipped. You have to like push a button,
oh my
you know.
goodness.
They were like it was a power test, and you had to push a button. Um,
Yeah,
and this
it was
person,
the person who finished fourth, actually. Inga, another
yes,
Norwegian athlete.
yes,
4 of the
so she,
top 5 in this division were Norwegians, and it was less than a second from Maria and Inga, and less than a second makes a difference of winning and getting second place in this case.
yes. So Inga finished the push, like this. There was a sled push. She finished it ahead of Maria, but then she just slipped and she couldn't push the button. So Maria Rongstad got it just before her. That was
Wow.
crazy. Like as a commentator, I was sitting there and just like I'm so excited the whole weekend. I don't know how you guys do it. It's so
So that
fun.
was on the women's side, and it was pretty much the Norwegian junior women cleaning up first, second, fourth, fifth. But on the men's side, it was mostly Swedish guys that were in the mix. One Norwegian athlete, and then I think a guy from Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Yeah, he was so crazy strong. Okay, look at the strength numbers. That
Yeah,
was
159 kilo clean and jerk, which would be competitive and relevant against pretty much any elite level male CrossFit field anywhere.
yes. So they did a max clean jerk. The open division had also a max clean jerk. The the heat or no, the event win or like the best score on the open division was 161. And this
Yeah, so
guy
this
had
guy
159. Like, what? That's crazy.
and and he won by a commanding amount, nearly 100 points over Christian Karastad, a Norwegian guy who got second there. There's Leo,
Yeah.
obviously a big guy. He's, like I said, 19 or 20, but this is kind of common, even at the 16 and 17-year-old division at the CrossFit Games. If you go there and you watch those athletes compete, you're going to see some big boys that are obviously pretty young, and they can move some weight. I mean, there was that one year that Guy Maieros snatched almost 292 pounds, I think, as a 17-year-old at the games.
True.
And this guy at 20 years old or less is clean and jerking almost 160 kilos, which is like I said, if like we're gonna see next week Olympic lifting total in Dubai, and I would not be surprised if that ends up being a top 3 or a top 5 lift there too.
Exactly. No, that's crazy. Yes, that's the. Is there like live comments here? Guys,
Yes, there's a fan of yours here in the
Thank you.
TJ. What do you know
have
anything
one fan.
about Christian Karastad?
Christian Karstad? Yeah, he trains at CrossFit Oslo, so he's a close friend here in the Oslo gym.
And do you think that there's any chance that we'll see him on an Oslo team or making a run as an individual this year or in upcoming years?
Actually, I don't have full control of all the teams this year, because they're all like planning it. That kind of period now where I think most of the teams are already set for the season. But I'm not 100% sure if he's doing team or what he's doing. I know also for these youngsters, they're at this level where they are obviously very good, but competing within like doing the nationals and doing the worlds, I think that's a good level for them at the moment. But also, I think they would perform or they could use some CrossFit, like real CrossFit competitions as well to get like that kind of practice in, because functional fitness is so like you do strength, you do endurance, you do everything. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's a conversation we had yesterday, where as a young athlete in the sport, sometimes it's not obvious how often you should be competing or where you can be competing. One of the nice things about being in a place that has a lot of athletes with experience, like CrossFit Oslo has, is that you can talk to him, and he can talk to you or Matilda or Kristen or any of the number of athletes there who've been competing for years and pick your brain, get your kind of thoughts. Obviously, Joachim Seaman, other coaches that are there as well, can help, kind of navigate and make recommendations, maybe get in some local competitions. There's a great competition circuit and scene up there in Norway and Sweden. So there's definitely opportunities, even outside of the CrossFit Games season, to kind of get that experience.
It is. Okay,
All
that's
right.
the juniors.
Yeah, we're going to bump it up. We're going to stay with the individuals. We're going to go back to the women, give you a chance
Do
to
you want to go?
celebrate. Yeah, we'll
Do
go
you
to the
want to go to
women.
team? Want
We'll
to go
go
to
to team
team
last.
first?
Teams
Okay.
last.
All right.
Teams
So
last.
women
Okay.
it is.
Women it is.
Women. And here we have
Damn,
a
Norway.
friend of yours. Well, you mentioned Matilda Garnis.
Two-time champ. Two-time
Yes,
champ.
two-time
Double champ.
champion. Yeah. So she's been on the podium 4 times, I think, 4 or 5 times in the functional fitness.
Since the start.
Hmm?
She's podium every year she's competed.
Yes,
at
every year.
IF3.
So she won with the team, I think, first year in 2018, third in 2019, if I'm not incorrect here. And then in 2021, Christine Holte was competing. And I think Matilda got second that year. Yeah. And then last year, She won this year. She won. She was yeah, so cool to watch her. She was almost flawless all weekend, really showing what a good or great athlete she is. Um,
But she
so
wasn't in
cool.
first after the first day. And this
No,
woman who took second from Switzerland, I guess it's probably Miriam
Miriam, yes.
Van Roor. I had never have heard of her. What do you know about her?
I also never heard of her. Apparently, she's very new in the sport. She's done some high rocks,
Okay.
high rocks. Yeah. So that's
Yep.
like the running and CrossFit thing. Um, but yeah, she's fairly new in the sport. Looking for her to be like a good contender. Probably maybe we see her at the semis this year or next year. That would be cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
went to look her up. She's only 20 years old, which is obviously young, and she has very little on her CrossFit Games profile. But in 2022, she was 54th worldwide in the Open, 22nd in Europe, and the fittest in Switzerland. So that
Whoa.
one
wow.
year, she had a great a great season going, and then she went to the quarterfinals, and I don't think she finished all of the workouts. Actually, she didn't do any of the workouts in quarterfinals that year. So it's like
Hmm.
the one data point that we have on her was a really impressive open finish from 2022 when she was probably 19 years old. And then
Yeah.
here she is taking, she was in the lead after day one, I think, of the Worlds. And then she ends up taking second place to potentially the best IF3 athlete from start to finish in their young career that we've ever seen in Matilda. So
Yeah.
she's one of these athletes that I'm certainly going to add to the list of women that are like on my radar. Let's see if she does the Open this
You
year
should.
and see what
Yeah.
happens, because not only, I mean, she got second to Matilda, but she beat Camilla and
Yeah.
Camilla Salmonson-Hellman. I mean, she had a baby, I think 18 months ago or something like that, but she's
Mhm.
slated to compete in Dubai next weekend. She did really well, I thought, at semifinals this year, just, considering she was coming back to competition after giving birth. And she's a very good athlete. So to finish ahead of her is pretty impressive from this young woman.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Camilla, what was very impressive watching her is like you can see the experience she has in the way that she always had like multiple ways to move. Like I think a very skilled athlete always knows like, okay, if I'm rowing and my back is starting to fatigue, I have a different rowing technique, you know? Like if doing the rope climbs and I feel my arms are tired, my grip are tired, you have a different technique. Or even like, and she was so like, especially on the there was a one workout with a rope, and Camila Salmonson was really really efficient, very professional in that terms.
I can do that. Like if I bend over to tie my shoe and my back gets tired, then I just go to a knee.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the same.
But yes, no,
Something
Camilla is an experienced athlete with CrossFit Games experience. Like I said, I thought she did great at semifinals last year. It's nice to see her have a good competition here. And then she's going to be, she's supposed to be in Dubai as well. So we'll get to see her again on a big stage this offseason.
Yeah, that's
something
cool.
to note about Miriam is she's actually competing. Lena's right. She did her research like a great broadcaster should, but she's a high rocks athlete and she's actually one of the top ranked high rocks athletes in the world. And she's competing in this weekend at World Championships in Stockholm. So
Oh
no
wow.
rest for her. Yeah. So
No
it's a
rest.
big deal. We know that that's the one. That's the event that Hunter McIntyre is attending to compete at. It's the World Championships, and that it's like a qualifier for the World Championships. But that's the one that she's competing at. She actually had an invite to Chicago, declined that to go to the IF3 instead, which makes sense because of all that travel.
Yeah. Oh, cool. You can also see like on the results, like first test there, she got a third place, which is endurance test. Totally makes sense. I think Matilda is crazy good on endurance, but obviously when you have like these very pure endurance tests, so Miriam got third. Um, the first place there was just insane.
Yeah, it
And
seemed like there were a couple of it was it's two Norwegian athletes, Stein and
yes,
Martha, that had
yes,
by far their best performance on that specific test.
yes. So Stine,
Stina, thank you.
it was like running, ski erg, row, and then ending with a bike erg, 2,000 meters on the bike, and Stine she stood the whole 2,000 meters. I was like, "Are you sitting down soon?" No, no, no. She was just like paddling on 2,000 meters, standing.
And I know that CrossFit athletes practice standing on the bike just in case, but usually they don't choose to do that for 2,000 meters if they don't have to do it.
No, 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 she was crushing it. Yeah,
And
but
as Patrick scrolls down here, you see there were several Norwegian athletes that did very well, taking 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place in addition to the top spot overall. Also nice to see another athlete from Switzerland, Aline Wirtz. She's an athlete that I've seen compete before, have a good performance, only a few points behind Camilla. And then a couple other countries getting some representation there in the top 10, Natalia Niska from Sweden and Julia Jacobsen from Germany. And while Europe, like I mentioned, Norway has a little bit of an advantage in this regard because there's some funding from their country early on. Sweden is, I think, adopting something similarly, but it's nice to see some other countries have some athletes show up and they're going to throw their names and their country in the mix at this competition as well.
Yeah, this is Veslemøy. I'm gonna pronounce the name for you guys.
Thank you.
It's a hard one.
I
was called by last name.
Veslemøy.
Yeah.
Veslemøy. Doing the 109 clean and jerk. That was also very strong. No, and also to mention
this lift helped her get her a Dubai invite.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, so she messaged the organizers, and I think the organizers saw this and they're like, all right, they gave her an invite. So I wanted to send a shout out to her and Ingrid, who were both teammates on the team? What that was it? The black team, Oslo blackout team. Yeah, because Ingrid did 108 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I thought that was really impressive. A lot of huge weight going around this weekend.
Yes, very strong athletes. So yeah, Norway had 10 athletes in each, or in the female division and in the male division, because they were the hosting nation. So usually you're not 10, maybe it was 6. Yeah, the double amount. 6.
I'm counting 10 here if I scroll through.
10? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So 10 athletes and then one team. So it's just because they were the hosting nation, which also makes sense that you see the Norwegian flag a little bit more on this leaderboard because of that. But yeah. With that said, a lot of these athletes competing also competed at the games. So they are really good athletes, like Ingrid Tundel and Veslemøy were on the blackout team, as you said. Stine, who I just told about, who was standing on the bike, she was on CrossFit Trondheim, the team who really just like crushed the running this year. Yeah, the 5K that we know, but still it was a really impressive time. The whole team, the guys as well.
We'll come back to the Trondheim team because a couple of those guys were on the IF3 team for Norway. But let's flip over to the men, individual men, where we had a guy. The winner here is someone that I know that I am very excited to see what he can do this upcoming season. He's a young guy from Switzerland also, Colin Bossard. If you watched the Madrid Championships, he did pretty well there against a pretty good field. He was within touching distance of potentially making the CrossFit Games in Europe this past season at the semis. And I know that he's an athlete that Snorri Barron is super excited about and represents him, I believe. And the people who know him and who are familiar with CrossFit in Europe know that this guy, I mean, he's a pretty small guy, quite frankly, but he's impressively strong for his size, has a great capacity for gymnastics, and he seems to be doing everything right.
Yeah. No, he was very impressive this weekend. Just, yeah. Even the endurance test, the first one, he got second. And there was a lot of first places where he was crushing, just obviously winning the events. He was very, solid throughout the weekend.
Yeah, if you look at his finishes, 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and then he took a 12th and a 14th on the power and the strength. Like I said, he's a smaller guy. He's a younger guy. So he's got some opportunity to put on some size and get stronger over the next couple of years. But everything else, he's already elite, like at that level where he's competitive with some of the top guys in Europe and at this competition. And he took second to, and there's actually an ongoing investigation or something review, the IF3, that they made an announcement about that. I'm curious to see how it unfolds. I heard it could take up to a week to resolve it, but there's a dispute about something. And if you see, the second place and third place points are separated by only 2. And if the dispute, it's on IF3's Instagram, Patrick, if you're looking for it. If the dispute does get overturned, there's a chance that the second and third places here could switch. So technically, it's not an official. I don't think that that's an official result yet, and it's a third-party review system. So this is something here. You can see it here. IF3 received an administrative complaint in accordance with Article 9 of the IF3 bylaws. The complaint alleges an improper scoring methodology was used for 2 athletes during the power test at Worlds. So we're getting some information, but not all the information. Per the procedure outlined in the bylaws, the complaint was assigned to an impartial investigator. So someone who's separate from everyone who's otherwise involved. The investigator will deliver a report to the IF3 presidents within a week. And then we'll see kind of what ends up happening from there, as the president will announce what's going on. And then it says here some other rules about their bylaws, whatever. So, but I'm not sure. Coffee pods and what? I'm not sure who will end up getting second and third based on that investigation. But Morten is an athlete from one of the CrossFit Games teams out of Oslo Nice, who is like the third team that made it there. So not too much experience on the individual side, but a good team athlete, as a lot of these athletes are.
Yeah. And he fits very well for, I would say, functional fitness, because you can see he has like some tests he just does very well in. The endurance test he won, the power test he won. His skill level is like overall good, and he's good in CrossFit. I also thought he did very well, and his team, of course, but he fits more games workouts than open workouts. Like
He's a
just
big
burpee
guy.
box jump overs doesn't fit because he's a tall guy. So if it's just burpees and semi-heavy lifting, it wouldn't favor him. But when you get to more like brutal workout or pure workouts, he's doing very well.
Yeah, the picture of him next to Colin and Victor was pretty funny, because those are smaller guys.
Yes.
And he's a huge Norwegian guy. As I've come to learn, there are some very big guys in Norway, including your chiropractor, who actually did some work on me when I was there, and he competes sometimes as well.
He did compete at the semifinals.
Yeah, so shout out to him. Victor Lundal is probably the best guy in Sweden right now. He's been doing very well in all the competitions he shows up to, team or otherwise. Yeah, you can see how big Morten is there compared to these guys. He's on the lower tier, but he's still taller than Colin is. And it was a pretty good competition. Victor Helsinghoff is also a very good Norwegian athlete, up and coming. He impressed us like Colin did at semifinals this last year. Do you know at all what Victor's plans are for this season?
He's going individual, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I was really impressed with him. I think I got a chance to tell him that. Great training environment, I think, and one more year of experience can be very fun. Kind of on the brink, potentially, kind of a guy at semis, maybe threatening for the games even. And he's pretty young, right?
He's very young. He's only 22, and yeah, he's been in CrossFit for now. I think this will be like his 3rd year. He's coming from professional handball. So
awesome.
I wouldn't say like he's this super tall Norwegian guy, but he's still so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's kind of more of the average build for a CrossFitter, maybe 5'10", 5'11". I don't know what that is in centimeters. He's got a good frame on him. So he's an exciting young athlete in Europe, in Norway for sure. Yeah. So that's the men's side of things. We'll wait to see if that review settles, but some young athletes in Colin and Victor at the very least that, they're relevant in competitive CrossFit within Europe for sure. And then on the team side of things, Team Norway won. First time that they've ever won there?
No. So Team Norway have been winning since 2018.
Every year, right?
every year. Yeah.
Now,
Um, I
Patrick, let's say
participated a few years, but it seems like Ingrid was just as like the main factor. I think Ingrid has been on the team at the Worlds the last 5 years.
every year or 4 out of every year. So we can actually, this is nice on their site there. You can just click the down arrow and you can see the teammates. I wish that more platforms had this easy access to see who the teammates were on every team. Some of them you have to click on it and scroll and do whatever. This is very easy to see. All of these athletes are well accomplished athletes. Ingrid's the only one from the CrossFit Oslo teams that you've been on, but both of the guys were on Trondheim this year.
No.
No.
So actually, the Marius Pettersen was
Okay.
there. He was on the first CrossFit Oslo team with me and Ingrid and Eivind.
Oh, that's what I have
He's
here.
been at the
Yes.
games with us taking second. And
The
he's
other
been,
two were on the Trondheim team.
yes. So Vår, that's a girl's name, in case you don't know any Norwegian names. Vår Turman Mo, she was on the Trondheim team together with Tobias Uppdal.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they did very well on some tests at the games, including the endurance tests. They took, Norway took a first place on half of the tests there, nothing worse than fourth place. But it wasn't a runaway necessarily. Team Denmark and Team Sweden were also very consistent between all three of those teams. Sixth place was the worst finish that any of them had on any event. And the points look maybe like a big gap, but like if you look, second place is 82 points. So just one spot is 18 points. So it's really just a couple of spots over the course of the weekend. In the case of Denmark and Sweden, 4 points separated them. That's like a fraction of a finishing place.
Yeah, I think Sweden was very like clearly at the second place early on. No, Norway was quite clearly in the first place, and I felt like Denmark. You can see their last two tests; they had like the first place and the second place, and it wasn't until the last workout that they bumped up to second place. Before that, they were on the third place, I think.
And
It
if
was a
people,
close battle. I'm sorry.
and for people who are not that familiar necessarily with Scandinavian CrossFit, Norway and Sweden and Denmark are all very close to each other, and they compete against each other a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that even though I'm sure Denmark and Sweden would have wanted to beat Norway, but the battle for second was still probably very important for them.
Yes. Yeah. Like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, there's like this, it's Scandinavia, it's this thing where it's very competitive and the countries are so close in most stuff that we do. So, yeah, you kind of want to win that battle. Yeah, for sure. Hi, we have a new person here.
Yes, Brandon Luckett.
I wanted to bring an expert on Scandinavian teams. So
cool.
I figure what better than Brandon Luckett? I mean,
That's not me.
He is an expert in some things.
Yeah. Brandon, did you meet Lena this past year at the games?
I don't think I did.
No. Hi, Brandon.
How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. How are you?
But you guys did compete against each other.
Yes.
And we've had the privilege here to talk to Lena. She did the commentary at the IF3s this last weekend. So we're just kind of getting a rundown of what happened there from her. She's competed there in the past, and she did the commentary this year and knows a lot about the athletes in that part of the world. And there are quite a few athletes, both team and individual, who will have some relevance going forward in the CrossFit season as well, I believe. And this morning we had just saw that the Dubai announced that Brandon had an opportunity to test out some of their workouts. I suppose his company is involved with at least one of them, so we took a chance and invited him on. So we're going to talk to him about the Dubai programming, because next week Patrick and I will be traveling and won't be able to do as much of this stuff. So that's why he's here. Lena, anything else that you want to tell us about what you got going on, where we can see you, or something from the IF3s?
One more shout out for the IF3. I know the Swedish team that got third. That's basically the same games team they had this year. And I think they got sixth place.
It was CrossFit Walleye Athlete at the games, and you can see their team there.
Not Walleye. This was Team Prestanda.
Yeah.
Okay, Prasanda was 10th. Walleye
10th
was
place.
6th.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's switch there. So 10th place. Still a very good, solid performance at the games.
Yeah,
Just
excellent team there. A
telling
lot of
something about,
experience.
yeah.
Very, very good
Thanks.
athletes. And it's just to say that, this team competition in the IF3s, it's only 8 teams this year. But even here, the third place team from this competition is 10th place at the games. Very, very good, accomplished athletes. And I'm hopeful that the team division of the IF3s continues to expand a little bit and get some more. I think all of the teams I think were from Europe. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some international teams over there eventually.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
need
While we have Brandon on, maybe he can say on this. Brandon, what's your knowledge of the IF3?
None.
None.
I have no knowledge of it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can go back and listen to the last 50 minutes and
Yeah.
get all the expert insights from someone who's competed there, commentated on it, and knows a lot
Mhm.
about it.
Perfect.
Well, my question to him would be, to kind of get more representation, especially, obviously the U.S. North America is a big part of functional fitness, particularly CrossFit, and how come those countries are being, I guess, they're not being represented at events like this? Go ahead, Lena. You have the answer to that?
I think that the sole reason and like the main reason might be there's
No
not
prize
money.
purse. Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, but it's
Mhm.
just not gonna be worth it competing if you're not winning. I'm not gonna say anything. I think first place is $1,000.
Yeah.
Has it been every year? Which for a professional athlete, this I'm sorry to say, that's nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah.
You can basically doesn't cover anything of your trip.
Mhm.
And if you're on a team and you split $1,000 in 4 as a
Yeah.
professional athlete, that's very laughable. I'm sorry. So that's the main thing where they need to bump it up. We do participate every year in Norway because we have like this good thing going on in Norway. This year the Worlds was in Norway as well, which is cool. But I know that we don't compete because necessarily like the worlds are so super cool or the
Mhm.
best competition. It's more the good stuff we get of being an official sport in Norway, like regular testing. We have insurances throughout the sport and the national team and all this stuff that makes it good.
Yeah.
And some
Brandon,
national pride.
what she was referring to is in Norway, functional fitness is actually state funded. Like they provide money. I mean, it's a real big initiative, and that's one reason why the championships were held in Oslo, and that's one reason why you're seeing a rise in Norwegian athletes in CrossFit and functional fitness. But you know, maybe the U.S. or North America can figure out something out. But I mean, is that something? Is competing for a sense of pride? Is that just not enough to compete at events like this?
I've always competed for a sense of pride. You know, I
Yeah,
haven't made much money in the realm of competition.
correct. Yeah, fair
And it's
enough.
fun to do, and it's fun to do on a team, as you've done in a past, couple of seasons here. Lena, will we see you anywhere competing or as a fan, Wadapalooza, anything like that over the next couple months before the Open?
Yeah, I will be doing Wadapalooza with Matilda and Annika Greer. So that will be
Oh,
very fun. Looking forward for that.
nice.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll be down there, and Patrick will be there, so we'll see you there.
Yes.
We will be eagerly awaiting the announcement of your team for the next season.
That'll be fun.
And thank you so much for coming on, sharing with us your insight. Congratulations on doing the commentary there. Do you know if someone was asking here if someone wanted to go back and watch that, if they can go do that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can send you a login if you guys wanna because you have to pay, I think, but I can send you a login.
Okay, well, we
Before
will.
Sister won't be too mad, I think.
and one last thing before we let you go, Lana, we have to show off your athletic ability because I know Brian's very proud of this moment.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
this is
I'm in the
That's Simon.
coach.
There
There's me.
she is.
Mm-hmm. I was pretty good that day. Like usually I'll get so frustrated, but that was a good day. Nice
Well,
disc.
the nice thing was that we had Roger there, and
Yeah,
we all felt very good
yeah,
compared to Roger.
that is true. Are you trying to say I wasn't good?
I'm
What?
trying to say you
I
were
am.
not the worst.
Come on. Okay, that's fine.
So maybe we'll play
Thank
again
you
sometime.
again. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
again so much, Lena. And we look forward. We'll see you in Miami. By the way, last time you were in Miami competing at Wadapalooza, you won. So just
Yes.
saying, you know,
Yeah.
that team
I have
could be possible. You could be repeating. So
hoping,
we
hoping.
appreciate everything you do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for a lovely chat. I had fun. I'm guessing I'm off now and Brandon is on.
Yes, and we will
Unless you
see
want to
you.
hang out.
I will watch, but I will say bye and then eat some dinner.
Okay. Thank you, Lena. We'll see you in
Okay.
Miami.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Brandon, what's up, man?
Not much. How are you guys?
Pretty good. So I didn't. I knew that you were somewhat involved with the programming there through the sponsorship of the event that was announced, the EMOM style event. But then they put up this post today thanking you for your dedication in testing this year's workouts, which had
Oh,
been programmed by Saud.
yeah.
And I didn't realize that you were that involved with that. And so I just said to Patrick, "Hey, man, let's see if he'd be willing to come on and kind of share with us what that experience was like from them reaching out to you through the testing." Some of the workouts, most of the workouts are announced, I believe, but there's definitely some details missing. So absolutely not asking you to reveal anything that's not revealed. More just curious about what that process was like and the experience was like.
Yeah, so I think Saud actually found me not through my personal Instagram or anything, but through like the EMOM Company. So he'd kind of been following that for a while, maybe a little bit over a year, and he would hit our workouts every now and then. And then I think with Dubai, he's very passionate about implementing things that haven't really been implemented at a large scale competition, especially something as large as Dubai. And so like he always tries to implement something that's fresh or new or hasn't been tried before, really. And so that's kind of how our relationship started with programming a workout, an event for Dubai, was that he wanted to use an EMOM style workout. And I guess he thought that the workouts that I typically put out on our page were challenging enough to present to some of the fittest in the world. And so that's kind of how that started. Months ago, he'd kind of talked about creating an EMOM style workout for Dubai. And so as that progress, like that process kind of got rolling, he kind of started asking me about, once he had the events, asking me about how I could test those workouts for him. I guess I'm not involved in Dubai in terms of competing, never competed there, had no intentions of competing this year. And so it's kind of a good opportunity for him to have someone with a decent fitness level test the events. And so just one by one, he would send them to me and have me test them, just so he could have a rough idea of like a time cap for the flow of his competition. And so, it was kind of, that's by accident. And then, we programmed the workout for him, which I tested that one way too many times to make sure it was right for the competition.
I have a ton of questions, but I did want to ask because they announced a different version of a workout yesterday. Did he ask you to test both versions of that?
No, I tested the first version, the one with the wall balls, which I don't think it's a issue for me to say that getting things overseas is a bit of a struggle right now. And so they weren't able to attain the wall balls, and so they had to flip the script on that and implement a different style of, a similar movement but a different style, just to keep the flow of the workout and the stimulus of the workout.
Yeah, I actually did a version of that yesterday. I chose to do I did a cut rope climb because 10 legless would have been just me standing there at some point. I did 12 wall balls and 20 drag rope double unders. And my goal was to do it under 2 minutes, under 20 minutes or 2 minutes per round. My fitness is okay right now. And I was able to do that. And I thought it was going to be a grip workout, but for me, the drag rope double unders just get my heart rate up, and so it was always kind of recovering from that.
That one was rough for sure.
Yeah, I did
And
speak to a few
I'm
athletes who
not
did it,
done
and they
testing
said,
all the
yeah.
events for him. He actually talked to me today. He's like, "Hey, I need you to test a couple more." All right, we'll make it happen.
Well, I'm doing the broadcast there, and I have a document that he shared with me that has like a skeleton of the workouts. Some of them
Yeah.
have been filling in, but some of them are still have some question marks, some ideas, whatever. So the last time I looked at it, at least, so I know he's still tinkering and messing around with some stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
not
I
that
think
surprised.
there's elements of every workout. He does give the skeleton on their releases of the workouts, but there's elements like load, time domain, even some of the implements that are just unknown, which is I think is awesome because it doesn't reveal everything to the competitors and gives them something to wonder about and ask about. And so I kind of like the way he does that.
And specifically with regards to the EMOM workout, it's event 4. It's called EMOM Enterprise. I think it was Devin Kim who was training with Chandler Smith and some others. I think they're in Australia now before heading over there. And they said, we're testing out some different versions of what we think this could potentially be because not all the details are known.
Yeah, there's a fun twist in there. He didn't release the load for sure, but there's a fun twist in there that'll make
you can
the
see
event.
right here exactly what is known, so you don't accidentally.
Yeah, and so there's a fun twist in there that I think is going to make it really exciting, and just it's going to change the approach of the athletes to the event, and kind of how you have to attack it. And so I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and there's look, there are 60 athletes hopefully competing there, 30 men, 30 women. All of them will have at least one coach, some training partners that when this comes out, it was announced a couple, maybe 2 weeks ago, November 7th, 3 weeks ago, that they can take it to the gym, show it to them. What do you guys think? What are some possibilities? And over the course of a month before the competition, if 60 different groups of people are having a conversation and testing out some different things, do you think any of them will have accidentally stumbled upon that nuance?
I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
That's pretty cool.
There's no way of knowing what the little. It's a small spin, but I've done it a couple different ways at a couple different loads. Don't ever want to do it again. But the form that we settled on was by far the toughest for me. But I mean, I'm not the strongest athlete. I'm not the best squatter, and so that
I actually
right.
I actually do know what the twist is, and I'm going to break it here. They have to do all this blindfolded. So mark it down. Sorry,
I hope they don't miss the bar when they jump up.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's the twist.
Yeah.
I didn't sign the NDA, so it's out there.
Brandon, just like back up in big picture, how'd you settle on the EMOM Company as the name for your company?
Honestly, it just kind of sounded nice.
Who doesn't like EMOM, right? Who doesn't like a good EMOM? Yeah.
Whenever so the way the company started was, I mean, I moved back home a few years ago to start working for my dad. Kind of decided that year I wasn't going to compete, and free time was hard to come by with work and everything. And so I started hitting 30-minute EMOMs, how to implement a barbell, a gymnastic, and a monostructural movement, whether it's like rowing, biking, running, whatever. And it was something that I used to do, whenever I get home from residency at 7 p.m. and I want to do something 30 minutes, get a little bit of everything mixed in. I just do a 30-minute EMOM whenever I was training for the games, and they were super effective. And I felt like it was a good use of a 30-minute, clock. And so whenever I moved back home and I was working a ton, I just started implementing those into my training again. And was talking to my brother-in-law. I was like, maybe other people would like to have access to something like this whenever they're short on time. Create a small little Instagram page, and anytime I do something along those lines, I'll just throw the workout up on the page. And yeah, I thought the EMOM Company just kind of sounded simple and smooth. And so eventually people started asking for daily programming, which I never had any intention of selling anything. I didn't want to I didn't want to be responsible for having to write a full program every week. I didn't have time to do that at the time. But enough people were asking for it that we just kind of made it happen.
Well, and I totally resonate with that. I've done personalized programming, helped with programming for affiliates over the years, and my opinion is that if you really want to do a personalized program for someone, or the optimal programming for someone, it almost has to be on a daily basis. You have to have just check in with the athlete. How's the body feeling? And even for myself, I might think that, I'm going to do this over the next 4 days. And by the third day, I'm like, wow, like my legs are totally smoked. And I don't think that it's necessary for me to power clean today or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just squat clean today.
Yeah. And yeah, even after, our daily programs only got 30 minutes of work programmed. Like start to finish, it's 30 minutes, outside of setting your stuff up, warming up, and, closing up shop. It's 30 minutes of work every day. But on the competitive side, I had started doing personalized programming for athletes, and quickly realized that, it involves a lot of time and attention to every single athlete to actually provide a good product and like actually take care of them well. And so I put aside that responsibility because I was afraid that, I wouldn't be able to actually provide quality to those individuals. And instead we threw out a competitive template with enough of work for any, domain, whether you're bad at gymnastics, lifting, or, conditioning, whatever it might be, with guidelines of how to approach your day to day. I think people like to check off every single box in their programming, and that's not always necessary. I mean, I for sure don't check off every single box every single day, depending on how I feel. I even change up workouts if I'm just extremely trashed or whatever. And so, a personal, like I also see personal coaches tinker with their athletes on a day-to-day basis, and it's just not something that I could do personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation that we could have for hours, just talking about the nuances of programming for individuals, for a general population, and whatever. But I think the EMOM Company is also a great sounding name. It's cool that Saud came across you and reached out and had that opportunity. Is that something that if there's other people that are interested in what you're doing, or you being involved in some way, is that something that you're open to?
Yeah, absolutely. We've programmed some competition events for a few different people. We sponsor some events for a few different people, and so we're always open to those kinds of collaborations.
Very cool. And I don't know, do you have any friends or athletes that that are going to Dubai to compete this year?
A few. I mean, mostly people I've competed against. I'm not as involved in the competitive side of things, especially on the individual side, as I used to. Um, you asked me about like IWF3, and I was like, I didn't even know about that. And so
Well, you're not that unique, actually. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people, especially in North America, that probably won't know little to
Yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah. I was in Vegas probably a little over a month ago at this point, training with Kyra Milligan and Kiefer, her coach. And so I know she'll be over there competing. So it'd be cool to see how they do.
They've let's see, we'll just take a look at some of these things they've announced here. They announced an obstacle course. My guess is that you haven't tested that.
Didn't need to test that one. Yeah.
And it's I love this kind of announcement because Dubai is notorious or famous, depending on your preference, for these like very cool offsite, long, grindy, unique to Dubai opening events. And they just throw out obstacle course race. And if you're a fan of the sport of CrossFit and you think of obstacle course race, if you're old school, you might think of Pendleton and doing the obstacle course up there. If you're more modern, 2017, they had the obstacle course at the games. They reused that equipment as part of the battleground. So we saw the obstacle course kind of woven into a longer style event. But it sounds like something that's short, fast, technical.
I can neither confirm nor deny that statement. I don't actually know any helpful details about that event.
So that's what I figured. I don't really know either. I have a suspicion that this is not what it seems on paper. It's probably, just knowing Saud, being there a few times, my guess is that there are certainly elements of this part of barbell spin comment. There's great.
Leave
That
the
are
spin.
that are unknown, that will, be probably pretty cool, maybe new style things, because that's just what he likes to do.
Yeah.
The second event is the Olympic total. And, I actually wrote an article about 1 rep max testing of the Olympic lifts, the snatch, the clean and jerk, and both recently. And there was a lot of interaction, conversation, opinion about whether it's too often, whatever. And without, necessarily giving anything away, did he ask you to test anything in terms of a format for this?
No, not for this one. This one might be pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I've actually tested for competitions in the past different formats of the lifting test, where they're most usually competition directors are saying, okay, we have this many athletes, we have this many heats, we have this much time. We want to give the most optimal situation for athletes to lift well and for spectators to absorb what's going on the floor. And they've sometimes asked me, hey, can you try to do a snatch every 2 minutes for 5 minutes and see, like, if you think that's enough time, if you have to change your own weights or something like that. So that was just my kind of only curiosity about that one.
Yeah. No, Saud does an insanely good job of flowing the whole competition and like the way that the events are laid out day to day. And he keeps in mind how, each event's going to tear down the athletes as the competition goes on. And then on top of that, he keeps in mind the spectacle of each event. So it's pretty impressive to actually see like that behind the scenes, the thought that goes into it on his part.
Yeah, and last year he outsourced most of the programming to HWPO, but prior to that, he'd been pretty directly involved in a lot of the programming for years and years in Dubai. So no shortage of experience there. We talked about event 3. That was the 10 rounds for time. Event 4 is the EMOM. We talked about that. There's nothing announced for event 5 yet. Event 6 is the one that I was actually most excited to ask you about. It's the DFC original. This is the chipper.
Oh,
and we'll pull it up here so you can see, because again, there are some unknown details here.
Let's see it.
So he just has it listed. I'm actually planning to do a version of this today. I don't know the full version of the workout as it'll be programmed. So at the beginning and end of the chipper, it just says machine. You don't have, again, don't give anything away that you don't want to. I'm going to row and ski on one of them just because it's more comparable time rise than a bike erg.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not sure which one I'll do first and last, but those are the two things that I'm going to do just from a time perspective. But you've done this workout or maybe more than one version of it?
I did one version of this workout with a certain machine. It's much harder than I expected. And the time, his thought on the time cap before I started wasn't, I wouldn't have finished in that time cap. Let me put it that way. So we had to add a little bit of time there. The 10 hardest bar muscle ups of my life, for sure.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
That's the middle of the workout.
Yeah.
I wrote an article a week ago or so, and it was like, what do we know so far about Dubai programming? And I put some like perceived time caps on there. I'm struggling to find the article right now. But anyway, and I think it was Mia Hesketh. She saw that I was starting to do some of the testing yesterday. I like to just I do versions that I think are comparable to what stimulus that pros will experience, so that when I'm doing the broadcast, I can speak to it with some experience of my own. And she's like, yeah, well, go test that chipper, because I think the time cap that you put down, you're going to be surprised when you actually go to do it. And as I was like thinking about this all last night when I saw that comment from her. Yeah, here it is. Thank you, Patrick. Is that those movements, like, they're kind of just slow. Like it just takes time to do each rep of each one of those movements.
Yeah, especially deck squats. That's something I'd never touched before that event. And like, I wish I could give you a video of me doing deck squats, because it's the most unathletic thing I've ever done in CrossFit. Like 100%.
Well, and the cool thing about each of these things is, the machine, we don't know what the machine is. The A jump, when they've done A jumps at the at Dubai in the past, more than once, And the last time they did it, I believe, was 2019, and I was there. And they had them put the vest on, do the A jumps, and then take the vest off. So there's one nuance. You could obviously do it holding a weighted object. You could do it to a variable height of a squatting implement, or a height of a box that you or whatever that you have to jump onto. So there's some nuance there.
Right.
Single arms devil's press could be light, could be heavy. You don't know. Deck squats, again, could do it with the vest, could do it holding a weighted implement. You're not sure. There could be any kind of subtleties added in there. And then I was like, well, the bar muscle ups looks like a throwaway. And for someone like you to say that those are like, this is how crazy that this is. I was actually thinking to myself, well, maybe I'll just do 10 ring muscle ups, which is a lot harder for me. And now I'm saying, no way.
I thought the 10 was a nuance as well, like just something that was thrown in as 10 to get back to the deck squats. And I had to break them, which
Damn.
I wasn't ready for that.
No, if you see a workout and has one set of 10 bar muscle ups, you're probably thinking, okay, what's after that?
That's
like you're not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's cool. I'm glad to know that. And then obviously when you have a chipper like this and you have to work your way back down, it's like this. You're on the way back down, but the reps are going up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really well written workout. It's extremely painful. But I mean, I went back and watched some of the chippers. It's a little bit different from the chippers they've done in the past, some of the same movements and whatnot. But I went back and watched, especially like the A jumps and the deck squats. I went back and watched some of those old events, but it's a very well written workout.
And then of course there's this potential that you end up getting to the machine at the end within a few seconds of someone else, and it's your worst nightmare.
I think that's how it's supposed to be.
And that leaves only event 7. And if there was a workout that I would have guessed that he'd have had someone test multiple times, it would be this one, because it appears to be relatively quick. You could do it with a lightweight, a moderate weight, or a heavy weight and get a very different stimulus. So depending on how he wants it to fit in with the rest of the workouts on the weekend, as you mentioned, that he's thoughtfully thinking about. This is towards the end of the competition. Have you? So I'm assuming you've tested this at least once.
I get to do that one today.
There you go. I'm saving it for tomorrow or maybe Friday, but I will do some version of it. And I've been just like debating in my mind whether I want to pick a weight that I think I can cycle or a weight where it's consistent singles. And then, the farmer's walk again, it's like, well, what's that distance going to be? And you could, it's on the tennis stadium. I know how big the tennis stadium is, but you could go down and back multiple trips. You could have increasing weight implements as the rounds go on. So there's it's so simple on paper, and there's so many nuances of what it could potentially be.
Yeah. Every single one of these is just a little appetizer for the actual meal that you're going to get. And I think that's beautiful. I think it's cool.
And I think my guess, just based on the duration of the competition and the history there, is that there's probably one more event, and just looking at some of these things, but we don't need to talk about that now because I'm going to, obviously it's not known. But very cool to have the insights. I think it's great that he found you through your company. That's that I hope is a really cool thing. I've had an opportunity this year to work with and talk to a variety of different, I guess they're programmers or owners of programming companies of some kind who used to be high-level competitive athletes in the sports. Some of them are still competing. Phil Hesketh and Prepared Programming does a lot of programming for Norway and Scandinavia competitions. Elliot Simmons did some of the programming or all of the programming with QHP for Madrid this year. And I think that, it's obvious. There's obviously the big draws out there, the HWPOs, the Mayhems, these names with massive followings. But to me, there are people like you, Elliot, Phil, and certainly others that have a ton of competitive experience, are pretty cerebral, and that I think, if competitions are interested in getting programming from, having testing done, bouncing ideas off of, that these are like great resources that can be used.
Yeah. I think after, so many years, you build up so much passion for the sport and, the lifestyle that once you kind of like cycling out of that or, fading out of the competitive side of things, it's it's an easy thing to pour your passion into, to give to others what, what little value you might be able to add for them,
I don't diminish your value, Brandon.
we do our best.
All right, one
Brandon,
fun question off topic.
Go ahead,
What's up?
Brian.
Because I a couple of years ago, I ran into you at the semifinal in Knoxville. You remember that at the
Yes,
check-in?
sir. Yeah.
You were there with Bill, I think.
Yes, sir.
And you've seen the saga of Bill Leahy unfold over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Finally got to see him in a competition since then that he was able to complete and do, some very impressive performances in Crash Crucible this year. I don't know if you were able to watch that. We did the broadcast.
I didn't, no.
But Bill, you've known him for a few years. You used to work with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to train with him a good bit.
And he's a very interesting figure in the sport of CrossFit, to the extent that his potential seems to be extremely high, but unfulfilled up to this point in his career. So for any of these people out there that maybe don't have as much personal experience or knowledge or know Bill the way that you do, what would you say about his potential in the sport?
I think Bill Leahy has more talent than anyone I've ever met, and more grit in training. Like, I've never seen someone who can tolerate as much work as that kid does. Like, he cares about nothing else other than this sport.
Damn.
Like, legit. And I've had this conversation with people that I think he's willing to sacrifice more in his life than other people are willing to. He doesn't think about anything else other than trying to get to the CrossFit Games and win the CrossFit Games. I think he's extremely young. I think the biggest thing for him is, he came in with so much talent and was so good so quickly that he's got zero competition experience. And he's gaining it clearly. He's getting better every time he competes, but he came in with very little experience, and that's a huge part of competing, is knowing how to compete, knowing how to execute on things. And so I don't think he's done in the sport. I think he can succeed.
Yeah, after watching him in Crucible, to me it feels like, even though there's been some things that maybe have been less than ideal, having some struggles with qualifiers and video reviews, and not getting sick at semifinals, that he's basically is just beginning in the sport.
Yeah, I think he's 24 years old.
Right.
So maybe younger, I don't know. Whenever I started training with him, he was like 16, like the first time I met him, So he's extremely young, and he's got all the time in the world. And so I don't think he's one to give up on what he's chasing.
PC, what were you gonna ask?
I just want to know, Brandon, what are your plans competitively?
That's a good question. So trying to piece together a team. We'll see if we can throw it together. And once we get that solidified, maybe we'll let you guys know who's on the team.
Yeah, and Lena said something similarly about up in Oslo, that they'll probably have several teams once again, and they're starting to narrow in on some of those things. In their case, most of the athletes live and train in or near Oslo, and so pretty much any version of the rule book that comes out is not going to have that big of an impact for them. But especially, I would say, in North America, where the athletes are very well spread out, you have friends and competitors and people that you could potentially train with all over the country, and potentially in other countries, that to some extent, until the rule book's out, it can be a little bit dicey in terms of solidifying who you want to compete with without knowing what the parameters are.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of going off of the rules from last year and hoping that those stick, but they do change them every year, so we'll see.
And and personally, as someone who has no interest in competing on a team, but I do like to see competitive teams in the field from around the world, I thought that last year's the structure of the rule for the team, assembly of the teams last year was both very good for the athletes and therefore the competition, and also for the CrossFit Games and for their specific team, because it was a lot less work to manage who's where, when, and all these other little details that, in years past, sometimes rules have been so specific that they're really just creating more work for themselves.
Right. Definitely. I also think it, without there being a ton of money in the sport, it's hard to get people to move somewhere unless you're a Mayhem or HWPO or Proven or something like that, where you can actually financially support the teams.
Or Alexis Johnson, she'll just move anywhere.
Dude, she's a nomad. She lives everywhere.
No, I mean, I talked to her the other day, and she got a new job, but she still doesn't know where she pays. I think she's paying rent at 2 different places, but
yeah,
who knows? Yeah.
I mean, dude, she lives with me for a month at a time every now and then. I mean, she's all over.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, thank you for taking the time on short notice to hop on with us and give some insight into the testing for Dubai. Good luck with the remainder of the testing. And obviously, we'll wait to see some of the versions of these workouts that come out. I don't know if you'll have a chance to watch the broadcast. We're going to be out there. I'll be doing the commentary with Derek Forrest again this year. And who knows, maybe it'll be fun to have you on again after the fact and kind of get your opinions about how things went relative to what you might have expected having done it yourself.
Absolutely.
So that might be a cool thing to do.
I'll be watching this year, just now that I got a little bit of stake in it, But I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so much.
And anyone out there who's interested in Brandon, he's a very smart guy, obviously a talented athlete. So reach out to him, see if there's some way that he can help you out. Like he said, try to add some value to whatever you're doing. Sounds like he's open-minded to it, and he's probably a pretty good resource if that's something you're looking for.
And he knows how to brand. He knows how to brand. Look at that picture. He knows exactly how to brand himself. That's good stuff right there. Hell yeah. Thanks again so much, Brandon. Take care.
Cool. Well, very different conversations there with Lena and then with Brandon. I appreciate both of them jumping on. It's for me, it's been nice to have we had Bella on from Australia yesterday. We got to talk to Lena. She's over in Norway right now. And of course, Brandon down in Louisiana. So getting a little bit of touches from some different people around the world. Hopefully that was for those who, curious about the IF3 and kind of what it is. It was a little bit insightful in that regard. Will be interesting to see what both Lena and Brandon end up doing this year in terms of whether they compete or not. Both are very high level and experienced, CrossFit Games athletes on the team side, Brandon also on the individual side. So if they do end up making teams, that likely will be relevant and entertaining to watch, competitive. And I wasn't really planning on doing a kind of insight into the Dubai programming necessarily, but that just kind of worked out with the announcement they made this morning and Brandon being available. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insight and excitement towards what some of these events are going to be and how they might play out in 8 or 10 days or whatever it is when Dubai Fitness Championships start.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, and I definitely think it's a topic worth discussing regarding the IF3. And just, we looked, obviously Nadia, there were some U.S. girls competing in the women division, but there was no men, there was no U.S. team or Canadian, and it's like. And Lena does bring a good point. It's about money, but I've had conversations with Gretchen Kittelberger. She's the president of the IF3, and she's asked me plenty of times, like, how do we get more involvement? How do we do this? And she understands there's a money value to it, but I don't know. I mean, what would your answer be to that, Brian? It just. Even if you're like a semifinal athlete that has no desire to go to the games, why not compete at the IF3? Yeah.
Well, I think two things come to mind, and one is, getting some media attention on it through media sources that are speaking regularly to a CrossFit audience. IF3 did not reach out to us and ask us to do this. We are in the pursuit of being as informed as we can about CrossFit athletes around the world, CrossFit competitions around the world, and how they can provide insight into what could potentially happen in the future. There is enough good athletes there, and a friend of ours in Lena who did the commentary for us to do something like this. But they could reach out to us and or others, invite maybe some media to come there and do some coverage of their event when it's going on or in the build up to it after the fact. And I think there would be some people who would be interested in supporting that, definitely in Europe, potentially internationally. We would certainly entertain those conversations. And then secondarily, yeah, I mean, it's if you want to attract more countries or high level athletes, then there needs to be some kind of a financial consideration, but that doesn't exclusively have to be through the prize purse, as Lena mentioned, and we talked about. The functional fitness is being supported by the Norwegian government. The Swedish government is now doing something similarly, and whereas they're not seemingly willing to recognize CrossFit as a national sport, they are willing to recognize functional fitness. And as Lena mentioned, through that support, you can still compete and get sometimes exemptions from work or school at high-level CrossFit competitions like the semifinals, the games, potentially events like Rogue or Wadapalooza or Dubai that hold a lot of prestige, that you can submit an application or something similar to the national company or government that's supporting, and get these opportunities, some funding, some insurance, etc., coaches that are being paid to coach the athletes that are representing their countries. And if that starts to happen and there are more countries who are kind of able to make it a national sport, functional fitness a national sport, then even if the prize purse remains small or stagnant for a few years, they can still get support that's needed financially to make doing that more viable or feasible for them.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. And that's something like Gretchen, she's dealing with. I know every year they're always adding more countries to, to the organization IF3. I know for a while there they had a little bit of a relationship with the U.S. Army Warrior Fitness Team, so that we're get a representation through that. I don't know what happened that relationship. I don't think it ended in bad news. I don't think it was a bad breakup. I think it was just like with the military, leadership changes every 2 years. So I think it's maybe someone and athletes leave. I think obviously that's like kind of a no-brainer. But I also think what you could do if you're the IF3 or the US IF3 specifically is reach out to maybe someone like Mayhem and see if there's some type of partnership there. And that way you have a brand name in the US that's associated with that. And not only that, but you also have athletes that might be willing. I mean, I could definitely see someone like Luke Parker wanting to represent the US at an IF3 event, or, and plus Mayhem's so international to begin with. You bring in someone like Facundo or some of their other coaches, that kind of advise. I think, that's kind of what I would think, like if I had a solution, maybe, I know Justin Kotler was very involved with it, when in the earlier stages. He was coaching athletes like Matt DeLugos, who competed at the IF3 when it was just starting. So I don't know. I think I love the concept. I think it's pretty cool. I love the idea of having those disciplines. So, it'll be interesting to see.
Anything else on the agenda today
For me?
for the show?
Oh, for the show. Oh, no. Nothing I can think of. I mean, try not to cough in the mic. That's on the agenda. No, just just trying to come up with some ideas for next week. Like I said yesterday, me and Brian will be boots on ground in Dubai. So it'd be kind of cool if we could do something like this with some of the athletes. Even Saud, maybe bring Saud on and have a little discussion with him or something. I know he's kind of reluctant to do stuff like that, but who knows? Maybe but just anything like that. So I'm looking forward to it. This has become an annual trip for all of us, me and you. This will be my 4th time going to Dubai in 3 years. So,
yeah. Before I'll leave for Dubai Monday night. I'll get there Tuesday, and but before that, I'm gonna head over to Wheelwad this weekend. I think I'm gonna drive up Friday and maybe drive back Saturday evening. So I'll spend like a day and a half of competition there. So very excited to kind of see what that competition is about. It's the first time I'll be at an adaptive only competition. And so then I'll, have some stuff to write about and talk about on the back end of that. And then we'll head over to Dubai, which will be most of the focus next week. We'll try to do a show from Dubai. The time zone there is obviously quite different. So I might do kind of a late show there. That'll be hopefully midday or morning in the States, and probably a prime time in Europe. So we'll probably do that on Wednesday, I think would be the most likely, maybe Wednesday or Thursday in Dubai.
Yeah.
So you guys can be looking for that. Like Patrick said, we may be able to get some athletes on. There's a ton of awesome athletes competing there. The roster they're still announcing some athletes. There are a few late additions to the roster that I'm aware of. Hopefully we'll have a full roster, a public full roster sooner rather than later. And maybe we can update that next week. We'll see about the details that we have and about maybe doing some projections. I'll definitely do picks for the competition overall. I'll probably rank all the athletes at the major competitions. I like to do that. And so we'll have plenty to talk about when we're over in Dubai.
Yeah, and not we also have dual coverage going over in England with FitFest. And if you guys are in the Arizona area, the Phoenix area, go check out Legends. Legends has got a big event going on this weekend. I don't know if you saw it yet, but I think Legends and Monster Comp, they released their Legends season. They're like master season for the upcoming 2024 season. So it kind of plays into each other, and it actually includes the games in there as well. So, but yeah, go check out the Legends if you're in the Phoenix area. I think they have names like, I think Dan Bailey is competing there. So I think Easy might be competing.
They have a great roster. It's a big field of athletes. For me, I'm quite sad that all three of these things are happening on the same weekend. We were pursuing some different options to provide some coverage of all three. If there is anyone who's going to be in Arizona and is interested in doing some content for us while you're there, reach out to me or Patrick, and we'll see about if that's possible. Our buddy Nico Rono, like you said, Patrick's going to be at FitFest representing B.Friendly Fitness, getting some content there. So we'll try to keep as much of a touch on what's happening in FitFest through Nico, and then the Masters Legends we may just have to kind of catch up on afterwards when we get back, and maybe we can do a show talking about what happened there during the holidays, because I do think that it's a community that I'm very interested in, the Masters community, and obviously those guys are going to be running the games next year. Like Patrick said, the guys who run the Legends, Jason, who runs the Monster Games, and even the guys who do Desert City, all of them have very good relationships with each other and are kind of collaborating for some stuff for next year. So we'll try our best to kind of probably most likely retroactively take a look at that. But it's just we can only be in one place at a time. Got invited to Dubai before I even knew that those other two things were happening at that weekend. And I probably would be going to Dubai anyway, as it's fun competition, a cool place, and a great opportunity to do the broadcast and represent a pretty elite field of athletes.
Yeah. And I think next week we'll also try to get Bella back on, maybe when we were in Dubai, to kind of recap the Down Under, maybe Wednesday as well. We'll have to check with her schedule. Yeah.
It's a busy time.
It really is. I mean, this is the fun part about CrossFit. I mean, obviously not having everything on top of each other, but the off season isn't really an off season. There's always something to talk about. I think that's what makes our sport so cool, is because, you have the game season, but you have all these corresponding events. And it seems like, for a while there, especially right after COVID, there was kind of a lull in terms of having competitions, but now you're seeing it pick up again. And I mean, we got TFX, Wadapalooza, just a lot of great stuff coming up in the future. And, I'm really interested to reach out to the people in Saudi Arabia and see what Sand Clash is about. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's should be pretty fun. And I think this is all in a good spot. And I'm glad that we're able to cover some of these things, and people allow us to do that. And you listening allow us to do it, and you're willing to listen to us. So, we appreciate, as always, the support. So, yeah, that's about all I got. So, yeah, Brian, unless you got anything final to say.
Yeah, like Patrick said, thank you guys for the support. Our newsletters continue to come out on Fridays. I'll always check on Instagram. We're trying to put up stuff, relevant stuff, reposting or our own when it's ready. And thank you guys for those who have recently joined on as supporters on Patreon.
And as always, be friendly, our